Welcome to section 2.1. This is the 11th session of the ISACA CISA exam prep series. In this session, we'll cover the legal side of governing technology. We'll work through several questions. Why do laws and regulations shape how you run technology? What kinds of rules show up most often? What happens when those rules trigger an audit? How do you audit for compliance well? And what does the phrase governance, risk, and compliance really mean? Why does this matter beyond the exam? Because every system you touch sits inside a legal frame. Picture a payments app handling cards in a dozen countries. Each country has its own rules about that data. If you miss one, the fines can be brutal. Auditors are expected to know which laws bite. Get this right, and you protect the whole business. So why do laws and regulations shape how you run technology? Because data moves through a life cycle. It is received, processed, stored, sent, shared, and finally destroyed. Rules apply at every one of those stages. The rules depend on where you operate and your industry, and they keep changing all the time, so you have to stay current on what applies. Think of a hospital network adding a new record system. The law touches how each patient file is handled. Miss that, and the project is built on sand. What kinds of rules show up most often? A few themes appear again and again worldwide. The first is protecting personal data and keeping it private. The second is respecting intellectual property rights. The third is making financial reporting reliable and honest. On top of those, some rules are industry-specific. A brokerage firm faces rules on electronic messaging that a bakery never will. So you map the rules to your sector. What should the technology team actually do about all this? Start by judging how well you protect your assets. Then check how you manage the related risk. Review compliance with these requirements on a regular schedule. But here is a nuance worth knowing. Compliance is itself a risk decision. A business can weigh the cost of complying, and it may choose to accept the penalty instead. That is a deliberate choice, not an accident. What happens when these rules trigger an audit? Many laws require a formal check on compliance. The audit confirms you are meeting the legal bar. And here is the part people forget. Some rules reach across borders. A law can bind you even if you sit elsewhere. Imagine a small retailer based in Brazil. It sells to shoppers living in Europe. European privacy rules now apply to that retailer. So operating in many places means tracking many rulebooks. How do you audit for compliance well? There is a clear set of things to look for. First, written standards and procedures that staff must follow. Second, one senior person who owns compliance overall. Third, background checks before granting power or access. Fourth, those procedures communicated through training and documents. Fifth, active monitoring to confirm the rules are kept. Sixth, consistent enforcement with real consequences for offenders. And finally, a proper response when something goes wrong. That means reporting it and preventing a repeat. Run through that checklist and you cover the essentials. Is there a way to see the global picture? Yes. International bodies map cyber law across nearly every nation. They track laws on online transactions and consumer protection. They also follow data privacy and cybercrime rules. Each entry shows whether a country has a law in force, or whether a draft is still waiting. Think of it as a world atlas for digital law. So what does governance, risk and compliance really mean? People shorten it to 3 letters, but the idea is simple. Governance is steering the policies and decisions. Risk is spotting, judging, and treating what could go wrong. Compliance is sticking to laws, standards, and policies. The whole point is that these cannot live in silos. They overlap, so you treat them as one activity. Most programs focus on 3 areas. Financial, where it guards honest reporting. Technology, where it keeps processes clean and compliant. And legal, where it covers your sector and location. The goal is one shared view of risk across the business. So let's bring it together. Laws follow your data through its whole life. Privacy, intellectual property, and honest finance recur everywhere. Compliance is a risk choice you make on purpose. Some rules reach you even from across a border. A solid compliance audit follows a clear checklist. And governance, risk, and compliance ties it all into one view. Hold these ideas, and the rest of this domain gets easier. The MCQs covering all the topics and concepts from this session are available on RooCloud.com. Practice the chapter-specific MCQs before moving on to the next session. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or feedback, post a comment below or email us. I will see you in the next session.